Wait, aren't you usually nominating 10? Did you move it down to 9 nominations just so you wouldn't have to nominate Blade Runner? Seriously. Screw you. Well, begrudgingly, the film I consider to be the best of last year did not get nominated. However, that does not mean to say that the ones that did get nominated do not have merit. And they do. Some of them. But that's what we're here for today. As you know, Narcotic Casserole, I've only talked about some of the nominees. If you want to be technical, I've only talked about 4 of them. Since there are 9 nominees, and I finally got around to seeing all of them, which is actually a personal first for me, so yay me, I'm going to actually, in a very truncated fashion, talk about the remaining 5 nominees I have not talked about on this channel. If you're wondering, hey, you don't have a review for Get Out, I did talk about Get Out in my 2017 Roundup, so technically I did review it. So there you go. So I will not be talking about 3 Billboards, Lady Bird, Shape of Water, or Get Out. In fact, I'm going to be talking about the other 5. So with that, let's get started. I want to get this one out of the way, and I know a lot of people are going to hate me for it, but to be dead honest, this movie pissed me off. Phantom Thread, the latest by Paul Thomas Anderson. I was about to say W.S. And this film's getting some attention because it's the last film that Daniel Day-Lewis is starring in, and I'm sorry, dude, you could have picked a better movie to go out on. This movie really riled me up in all the wrong ways. Mainly, and it has nothing to do with the pacing, it has nothing to do with the way it's made, or even what kind of movie it is. What ticks me off is that you're left with this absolutely, I don't want to say lurid, I actually want to say very horrifying love story. In essence, it's a love story. It's a love story about a absolutely douchebaggy fashion designer and his muse, who in the beginning, he takes her up out of the streets or out of the coffee shop and starts making dresses with her in mind. And it seems interesting. It seems nice. Honestly, I was expecting more out of this. I mean, this is Paul Thomas Anderson. This is the guy who was able to show humanity in the porn industry, for crying out loud. And this is what we're left with. We're left with this whole story about this woman, Alma, who, yeah, is trying to claw affection out of this. Yes, he's obsessive. Yes, he's an egotist, and he likes things his own way. And it leaves you to wonder, is the juice worth the squeeze? He's a brilliant designer-ish. I don't really see Meryl Streep from Devil Wears Prada giving him anything but this look. But really, in the end, she's going through all these travails in order to earn his affection, and it gets so ridiculous to the point where she actually poisons him. And here I'm going like, ooh, she's about to poison him. This is going to get interesting. I'm like, okay, this is going to turn into like a War of the Roses type thing where they start like ripping each other apart. And I'm like, this is honestly much more interesting to me. And instead, yeah, he doesn't die. I'm sorry, I'm spoiling this. I don't care. But he ends up getting sick, and he turns into like this little puppy dog, and he actually, starts loving her because he felt so helpless, and he felt like he needed her. So later on, they get married after this incident, and they end up falling into the same rut. And then she decides, in a bit of frustration, to poison him again. Only this time, he knows she's doing it, and decides to go ahead and let himself get poisoned anyway, so they can continue this abusive cycle, this sadomasochistic abusive cycle. And in the end, what are we left with? There was no profundity in this film apart from the fact that seems like the only way people like that can ever find any kind of connection or anything like that is through systematic sadomasochistic abuse. And that is not something that, frankly, I think needs to be honored right now. Daniel Day-Lewis is fine in it. Leslie Manville is fine in it, but there's nothing here that is awards worthy, and I will be livid if this takes anything. It's not a plate of shit worthy, but it's pretty damn close, because that being said, it is well written, the acting is good, Paul Thomas Anderson still knows how to craft a good looking film, so it's only a 1 serving. I can definitely see where the hype's coming from on this one. First off, it is a gorgeous film. The cinematography is very elegant. It does a wonderful job showing off the absolutely beautiful side of northern Italy and takes place in the 1950s. Another thing I have to applaud it for is that, story-wise, it is a love story, but it's a traditional love story, but the thing that makes it astray from that is the fact that it's a love story between two men. Now, what I mean by this is that normally, when you have a movie about two gay men, you'll have these caveats where they're being persecuted. And usually in these proceedings, one of them dies, or at the very least, they're forced to part ways because, oh, society won't accept us kind of thing. And in a fashion, we do get that in the end, but it's not done in that way that makes you want to hate the world. Because the film is about first love, in essence. And for most people, when they're a kid and they have their first love, they think that nothing will top it. They think it's going to be this and nothing else. And I did like that it was refreshingly realistic about it. And there was a lot of things I will say I took away from it. First off, Michael Stuhlbarg, that actor, I forgot to mention him in my Shape of Water review. This guy needs to get some kind of recognition because he is a wonderful actor, versatile, and has done so much wonderful work. I knew when I saw him in Men in Black 3, I was like, this guy's going to do some incredible things. So there is a lot of good in this movie. Now, that being said, though, it feels very base. I mean, it does feel like just a typical love story. And even in a typical love story, even in some of the best romantic comedies and some of the best romantic dramas, there's some kind of conflict. I didn't really feel any conflict in here. The only real conflict is in the resolution, but that feels natural. I mean, I was going like, okay, this is nice, but it's not going to last, and for certain reasons. And when it inevitably gets to that point, I felt like, yeah, it's all coming, but you know what? They did a good job. So it is a good movie, and I am very happy that a lot of people really love this, but for me, it's not Best Picture worthy. But that's not going to stop me from giving it a 3.5 servings. So next up on the totem pole is The Post. This film was thoroughly entertaining. I had a great time watching it, and I would expect no less from Spielberg, to be dead honest. And I will say, right now, The Post is definitely a very relevant movie to watch. And it's kind of eerie, the notions of how history repeats itself, and how with the annoying Orange and his war on the media, it's kind of creepy how much today echoes what occurs in this movie. So I was into it all the way through. And the best part is, even though, yeah, Meryl Streep's getting all the raves and Tom Hanks is getting some raves, I gotta say, this was a wonderful ensemble piece. The cast is on the ball. And I did kind of laugh at the fact that it's a reunion of Mr. Show with David Cross and Bob Odenkirk. And Bob Odenkirk was great in this. So by and large, it's a wonderful watch, and I encourage you to watch it. Now, that being said, it's not awards worthy. And the reason why is this. This is Steven Spielberg we're dealing with. This man is a god in the annals of cinema history. And beyond Jaws, beyond Indiana Jones, beyond all of his big, innovative spectacle films, I'm talking about stuff like Schindler's List, Empire of the Sun, Saving Private Ryan. This man has done awe-inspiring work, the stuff that needs to be studied. And really, it just feels like Spielberg slumming it. And that's why I can't say it's awards worthy. I'm going to say it's a good movie, and it's very competently made, even if he did fall into the same trap that he did with Lincoln, where in Lincoln he felt compelled to have to do the assassination of Lincoln at the end, even though frankly it didn't really need it. And this one felt the same way. The story resolves, but he felt the need to tag end it with the beginning of the Watergate scandal. And I was like, I just don't feel like you need to get into that. Everyone knows that part of the history, and honestly, in a fashion, it doesn't really connect. So really, it felt extraneous. Post is still a wonderfully mounted movie, still competently made, but in the end, it's nothing remarkable. And with that, I'm going to give it 3.5 servings. Actually, I'm going to do these two back to back. These are two movies from two different filmmakers, and the eeriest part of it all is that they go together. They have a very symbiotic connection. Of course, yes, it's because it's about World War II, but here's the fascinating thing, and I'm going to go in chronological order here. The first one, Darkest Hour. Darkest Hour is riveting as hell. I thought when I was waiting for the movie to start, I was like, okay, historical movie. No, this movie grabs you by the throat and pulls you all the way through. And I was never bored throughout this entire thing. And usually movies about politics in the hands of certain filmmakers will keep it dry and keep it sluggish. This one is a freight train all the way through. And what I love at times when I'm seeing these moments in history, and I love wanting to rip my hair out, screaming at people. Darkest Hour talks about Winston Churchill right when he becomes prime minister. Amidst a lot of controversy, he decides, against all the advice from practically most of Parliament, to go into peace talks with Hitler, and he says, hell no! In a fashion, this movie to me was akin to 1776, the idealistic minority, and how they have to fight through insurmountable odds because they know that their cause is the right cause. I felt that same level of electricity when I was watching this all the way through. Gary Oldman, begging for that gold. He needs that gold, and I want him to get that gold this year. So that's the major thing that will definitely carry you all the way through. But the thing that also delighted me about it is that it's a very multifaceted film when it comes to tone. There's, yes, gripping drama all the way through. There's moments of sadness, moments of stress, but then, even in the midst of it, there's still wonderful moments of humor. There's one moment where I busted out laughing, and because I'm familiar with certain British customs, I was the only one in the theater who was busting out because I knew what a certain gesture meant, and I was dying. It's little things like that that just kept you wanting to continue going on. Ben Mendelsohn, Krennic, plays King George in this, and he is unrecognizable. While I really loved Colin Firth in The King's Speech, I gotta say, I really loved that he approached this with a touch more delicacy. And one of my favorite moments was the bonding between him and Winston Churchill. And that's what this movie has. It's just a series of wonderful moments that just want you to just stay with it all the way through. And there's one moment I will say may have been a bit pandering, but you kind of don't care. But I'm not going to spoil it, but there is a moment that I was like, I doubt this actually happened, but I'm like, it just feels right to have it in there anyway. And the reason why I'm saying this goes with the other one, the movie ends at just that right moment to go into Dunkirk. I am kicking myself. I love Christopher Nolan with a fiery passion. I've loved him ever since Memento. And I always said, back when I saw Memento, this guy is going to be doing stuff. And as it turned out, I was right. And this is the first one since Insomnia that I have not gone to see in the theaters, and after I finally got a chance to see it, I'm kicking myself. This one, for all intents and purposes, picked up practically where Darkest Hour ends, where you're actually seeing Dunkirk as it unfolds. The thing that makes Dunkirk particularly enthralling is, particularly for me as a Christopher Nolan fan, it felt like old school Nolan, but with today's Nolan's scale. He actually plays with a narrative pacing on this, and he actually said, I believe he said, that it was all to give you the disorienting perspective of war. And if that was his aim, you know what, truth be told, it worked. But what was fascinating was how he was able to keep it all progressing so it all meets right at the dead end. And right when I got the ebb and flow of what was going on, and once I figured it out. And the funny thing is, he doesn't make you figure it out for yourself. He actually tells you what he's going for right at the dead beginning. The mule, 1 week, the air, 1 hour, the sea, 1 day. I was like, and when I went back and thought about it, I was like, that's what he's doing here. Like, I jolted a bunch because it was freaking me out the way he was able to give us that idea that you could die at any moment in this one. And that's what, frankly, a good war movie is supposed to do, is to give you this sense of peril that people are going to die at any moment. Nothing is safe so long as you're in a war atmosphere. And that's what this movie did. There's an opening sequence where a bunch of people are trying to get to the beach at Dunkirk, and they're running through a French neighborhood. And it's harrowing all the way through from the very first bullet shot. And here I am, I'm tensing up. This is an incredible achievement on Nolan's part. I mean, it's a very different film compared to what we're used to from Nolan. It's not cerebral like Inception. It's not, big and flashy like the Dark Knight movies. Nolan set out to make a moment in history and to make it as disorienting as one would possibly imagine a moment like this is. And it is just invigorating all the way through. If this be the one to take Best Picture, you'll definitely not get any complaints from me. The only complaint you're going to get from me is that Blade Runner didn't get nominated! But beside that, collectively, between Dunkirk and The Darkest Hour, both of them are getting a perfect rating of 5 servings. That's how much I love both of them. And I strongly recommend, if you have not seen both, go see Darkest Hour first and then jump right into Dunkirk. I guarantee you will have a great time. And not in the typical, like, huh, interesting, but really, you'll feel spiritually fulfilled by these movies. So definitely go see those. So that was my Oscar Best Picture review roundup. This is going to be a very interesting year. I will say, looking at all the nominees, there's some kind of refreshing variety about it. In the previous years, there always seemed to be this kind of monotony about it. When you think about this category this year, and the fact that we have a homoerotic love story, a love story between a mute woman and a fish man, a dark comedy about a grieving mother, a coming-of-age story about a young girl on the cusp of adulthood, and 2 incredible World War II-based films. And the best part is they don't feel like the typical fare. This is going to be a very interesting year. I'm looking forward to it. This is the first time in a long time I've been looking forward to the Oscars. If you're going to ask me, what do I think should win? Well, let's leave that for my Oscar special, where I will go through each of the primary categories and actually tell you which films I think should win the Oscar this year. So, in the meantime, if you agree with me, if you disagree, leave it in the comments below. And for more addictive content on Narcotic Casserole, simply like, share, subscribe, click, thou shalt be served. Oh, you stayed. Lovely. Actually, something did just occur to me. This is my 100th video on Narcotic Casserole. Yeah, I know. 100 videos. And where did the time go? It's kind of amazing. Now, I know a lot of things are changing on YouTube right now. I know they've changed the monetization standards. And in a fashion, I can kind of see where they're going for, because previously the way to get monetization was 10,000 views, and that may have been a bit easy. Heck, it was kind of easy for me to an extent. So I can kind of see where they're coming from. At the same time, it really does lick donkey balls. It sucks. Yeah, I admit it sucks. I won't be monetized anymore, but you know what? I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going. I'm at 100 videos, and I'm looking down the entire list, and I'm going, wow, I did all of this. And the best part is, the reason why I'm doing all this is because I've been getting excellent feedback, wonderful feedback, and through this, I've actually been able to have wonderful chats with all you great internet critics out there. I absolutely love you all. It's because of this I get to be friends with Man Bites Film. They're great. Check them out. And many other wonderful critics. You can even see all the ones I've subscribed to. I've subscribed to them because they're wonderful people. Check them out. They're great. So really, if you want me to keep going on, tell your friends about this channel. Tell them about some of the features. Tell them about close examinations. Tell them about less to more. Tell them about rare delicacies. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going. In fact, we're going to have much more features coming up down the line. We even have a new installment of Cinema Schlock coming up very soon, where we're going to do a Which is Worse session between Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 and the first Michael Bay. So keep it on there. I'm not going to stop, and I have the absolute faith that you're not going to stop. So definitely tell people about it. Like, share, subscribe. That same old song. And I won't keep singing that song until I get the monetization. Okay, maybe not just about the monetization, but, you know, about entertaining you. That's a priority. Yes, it's about entertaining you. Totally about entertaining you, not about the monies. Okay, fine, a little bit about the monies.